back to Nnscra Radio here in the 1620 BCBM Nelliston, New York studios booth. That's, gotta give a big shout out to one Eric Jones. What a great job he did filling in for Matt Kenseth. You know, if you take a good driver, a young driver, and you put him in a good ride, he is going to perform. So many times people are looking at these young drivers and they're like, oh wow, they're not doing very good. Are they going to be able to compete with the Gordons, with the Johnsons, with the Keselowskis, with the Harvicks? You know, it all comes down to good equipment plus good driver equals good result. I mean, look at David Reagan. David Reagan was moved to the 18 to fill in for Kyle Busch, and we saw him up in the top 15 week after week after week. He was in good equipment. You know, and people are looking at drivers like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and they're looking at Justin Allgaier, and they're looking at Michael Annett, and you know they're thinking, well, why aren't these guys up there doing this kind of competing like we saw these other drivers did? I'll give you the answer. They're not in the best equipment out there. We obviously know that Roush Fenway Racing is kind of in a dormant type rebuilding mode. Yes, Greg Biffle's been able to get some good finishes for them lately. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has actually stepped his game up a little bit. But the truth is, if you put Ricky Stenhouse Jr., say, in maybe a team for, okay, let's just throw one out there. He drives a Ford. Let's say he drives for Penske. You more than likely would see him getting a lot better finishes. Who's to say Michael Annett, who's in a ride right now for H. Scott Motorsports, so is Allgaier. Okay, not exactly the best team out there. Again, they're a team that's trying to build themselves up. Who's to say if you didn't put him in a team that is capable of winning? Let's say, for instance, put him with Stuart Haas Racing. Who's to say you're not going to see him up inside the top 15? It all comes down to equipment. But Eric Jones, great driver, great equipment, able to finish the 20 car in the 12th position. So great run for him. It'll be interesting to see what he can follow that up with next week at Phoenix. But, you know, it'll be very interesting for that. Also, got to give a shout out as well to Brian Scott. Having a great run there too. I'm hoping they're planning at some time to bring Brian Scott up full time to the Sprint Cup Series, because the truth of the matter is I think he's ready. He's shown consistency in the number of times they've put him in that 33 car. I think Brian Scott, Eric Jones, their time is now to come up to the Sprint Cup Series. But the biggest problem, and I'll be addressing this during the off season for the Sprint Cup Series, is there's not much space up there as far as open rides. Either the rides are already claimed, or it's a team that really just cannot expand to open up the room for a driver like that. So we'll get to that very soon in the near future after the 2015 Sprint Cup Series season is over. But great job, great runs for Eric Jones and Brian Scott. Definitely the future generation of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. All right, so let's look ahead to Phoenix International Raceway. This is going to be very, very interesting in the fact that this is a track that also could play a factor into tire wear. But we are going to see if that's going to be the case or not. You know, it's going to have heat out there being in Phoenix. So you never know. You never, ever know if that's going to be the case. All right, so let's look at the scenarios coming into this. Jeff Gordon not really going to have to worry about it, even though he does have a win at Phoenix. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, I'm going to say these two drivers are heading in with minimal to no worries. I think they're going to be in the hunt. All right, so let's look at Martin Truex Jr., let's look at Carl Edwards, and then let's look at the must-win scenarios for Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, and Joey Logano. Now, if we are looking at the last 5 races since February 2013, Brad Keselowski, after the momentum he had with the dominating run at Texas, he's got a very good shot here. 5 races, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and none of those finishes outside of the top 20. His average starting spot, 6.4, but his average finishing spot has been inside the top 5, so we know he runs well there. His teammate Joey Logano was not too far behind, although in 5 starts, average finish of 10th position. He has 4 top 20s in those 5 starts, which include 4 top 10s. So he can finish in the top 10, but he's not had a win yet. The dominating driver has been Kevin Harvick, by the way. 4 of the last 5 races at Phoenix have been won by that team. The only other one in those 5 races has been Carl Edwards. So we got Brad Keselowski. He's got an average finish of top 5 in the last 5 starts. Joey Logano, average finish of 10th. Where is Kurt Busch? Well, surprising as it may seem, Kurt Busch is way, way down on the list. Kurt Busch, if I can even find him here, he's a long ways down on this list. 16.60 average finish. 1 DNF in his last 5 starts. 2 top 5s, however, 3 top 10s. Average starting spot of 12th place. His highest finish in his last 5 starts was a 5th place spot. 39th, of course, the DNF. So that's an interesting stat, but here's another interesting one. His last 5 starts, Kurt Busch laps led 0. No laps led for Kurt Busch. And we mentioned he was a former winner at this track, but this is certainly going to be an uphill battle for him. His average finish since the track opened in 1988, a little bit better though. Kurt Busch, an average finish of 13.9. So technically a 14th place average finish. He's made a total of 25 starts, 1 win, 6 top 5s, 14 top 10s. That DNF that he had in his last 5 starts that I mentioned is the only DNF he's ever had at Phoenix. So keep that in mind as well. If we're looking, continuing from 1988 on, you've got Kyle Busch, average finish of 14th place. But how about the must-win situation, guys? Kurt Busch, actually the highest of them. Brad Keselowski would be next with a 13th place average finish, 12 starts, no wins, 4 top 5, 6 top 10s. Joey Logano, 15th place average finish, no wins, 7 top 10s with 2 top 5s. So, things are looking like it's going to come down between Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch to maybe be up there at the front to try and win that final spot. But no laps led in his last 5 starts at Phoenix. Kurt Busch could be in real trouble. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to make the Final 4? Thanks, guys, for tuning in here to this week's segment of NASCAR Talk Radio on 1620 WCBM, Nelliston, New York.